Hi everybody, welcome once again to our Low on Health Rambling. Today is March 16th, 2011. It's around 6 o'clock p.m. I know I haven't been doing these videos that often. As I mentioned before, I am now working two jobs, working at the state attorney's office and McDonald's at night and on the weekends to kind of hopefully shore up my escrow shortage I mentioned numerous times before, kind of having to run a little bit low on the funds, so I need to work more, in which case I work now 60 plus hours, which yes, a lot of people do it, it's no big deal. But it's kind of fun. I mean, I am still enjoying working at McDonald's immensely. I just kind of like the atmosphere. It's kind of a fast-paced kind of a work environment, and I like doing that. Also, I want to mention real quick too, actually at the state attorney's office, we actually will be having an opening in my department. Actually, one of my fellow coworkers is moving on to another job. Federal job actually, and so we're going to be at an opening then. We're taking applications and whatnot, so if you're interested at all in working for the state attorney's office in Newport Richey, of course file management is a lot of clerical work and whatnot, a lot of time sensitive stuff. Shoot me a message or whatnot, and I'll email you the application so you can fill it out and mail it in and whatnot. And I enjoy working for the state. It's one of the only jobs available where you can actually probably retire from with the pension, despite what you hear in the news and whatnot. We still will have a pension. And you know about the pay and whatnot, but it's a nice solid job that you know will always be there. So besides that, I mean, really working takes a lot out of me, so I usually still try to get my 8 hours of solid sleep. And besides that, what I've found myself also doing is playing Dragon Age 2 and a little video game news. Playing Dragon Age 2 a little bit here and there. It's kind of hard to find and dedicate the time because I always want to try to do it in solid hour chunks, and I really haven't been able to dedicate a solid 2 hours to it. But I'm enjoying it. I'm playing a female mage, of course, and I just woohooed Meryl and Isabella, or Isabella then Meryl, and asked Meryl to move in with me, which to me almost ends the game right there. I mean, I'm done. That's all I wanted to accomplish. I could care what else happens to the world. But of course, I'll ramble on about Dragon Age 2 when I do my full review for it, probably in a month or so. Other than that, what I find myself doing a lot recently is reading, and I just want to bring this up real quick. I've been reading a lot of the Human X Commonwealth books. Now, this is, of course, this is a universe that Alan Dean Foster, which is a guy I read a lot of his books, and I read, I mentioned this before in my other ramblings, I read it through his Flinks and Pip series, which is like a 13-book series that takes place in the Human X Commonwealth. It's kind of like a sci-fi universe and whatnot. And then recently this year I read all of his Spellsinger books, which takes place in a fantasy full world. But what I've done is I've gone back to the Human X Commonwealth series, kind of universe of books, and I'm reading the founding books, which of course the Commonwealth founding books are they're the novels where the founding is right there, the founding books. I've read the first two. I'm currently on this one, and there's actually one after that that I'm reading, and it's kind of nice because what's nice about these books is it gives you a basic understanding of that universe. A lot of the times in the one series that I read, the Flinks one and Pip, they mention events that take place that shape the kind of Commonwealth. And what these books do is they let you know about the first kind of contact and the first meeting and whatnot, and how the political kind of friendship and whatnot grew together, and how they basically just made a Commonwealth, which is a pretty big deal. You know, it's kind of like the Starfleet Federation, I guess, if you really want to think of a Galactic Senate. But it's kind of just kind of see it more of a personal level, the people involved in it and whatnot. And I just enjoy it. But what I find is I'll read an extra chapter or two right before I go to bed, and then I'll end up reading too much and not getting that much sleep sometimes. But I enjoy the books and I continue reading them. And I'm going to basically, after this, probably start hitting up all the Human X Commonwealth novels, which are a bunch of these that take place in different worlds in that universe. Moving on here, I have been watching a bunch of movies. As always, I love watching movies. I watched Faster, which was a movie I never really heard of before. But it's a Dwayne Johnson classic revenge tale. In which case, after I finished watching this, I realized it felt more kind of like a contemporary of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You kind of have the good guy, the bad guy, and kind of the assassin, kind of the guy, and you have the three characters and whatnot. But it is a classic, action-packed revenge film starring Dwayne Johnson, who I think does a great job as an action star. And I really recommend watching this film if you like kind of, you know, your testosterone action films. And it's a solid revenge film. It has a decent plot. It has a good plot. I really much enjoy the plot. You can kind of see maybe the twist coming, but it's still solid. And I recommend watching it if you haven't heard about it. Look into it real quick, and it's worth watching. And then for whatever reason, after watching let me think. After watching The Tourist, I mentioned I was going to watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In which case, I finally did. Because this kind of started that whole, you know, married kind of espionage, spy vibe thing going on. And I never watched it originally, so I finally watched it. And I was actually surprised. I actually enjoyed it. I was more or less concerned that the whole big end of the movie was them fighting each other, but I realized that was kind of the second act. and then the third act is them working together. So I really liked it. It was a great, once again, action-packed film. And I kind of see where Brad and Angelina kind of got hooked up and got together. This was their film. I enjoyed it. I mean, granted, it's an old film, but a lot of films I didn't watch back in the day, and now I'm just watching them again because this is kind of like the genesis of a lot of these other kind of films and whatnot. Moving on here, I do recommend Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I watched Young Frankenstein, which of course is a very, very old film, as I mentioned before. I'm watching a bunch of old films. After I watched Blazing Saddles last year, I really wanted to kind of watch Young Frankenstein, and I really couldn't find a decent kind of version of it, and then I was finally able to watch it in 720p. And of course, it's just a black and white film, but watching it with that fidelity is nice. It's your classic Mel Brooks, Gene Wilder film, in which case, funny as hell, and I love it, and I definitely recommend it to comedy fans, and it's just, I recommend it to everybody because it's nice to see these good old classic films. It's just funny, and actually there's a commentary track too that I'll eventually end up watching, but I loved it. It's just the classic old school humor. I mean, if you love, Life of Brian or Robin Hood, any Mel Brooks film, you'll love this film too. I will say my favorite part was probably when he had the monster doing the Ritz. I just thought it was funny. There's a lot of just good, solid comedy moments in this. The next movie that I watched, it's just a great movie, is Good Will Hunting. For some reason, I don't know why. I am kind of a Matt Damon fan to a point. He's great in The Bourne Identity, and this is kind of, I would say, maybe his first real film that, he came out and whatnot, him and Ben Affleck. This was just a great film. It won an Oscar for writing, and I never saw it, so I was like, you know what, I'll go ahead and watch this film, and I can see why it got the rewards and, praise it did. It's a really good movie, and granted, yes, it's another one of those, it's a 1997 movie that, I'm seeing it now in 2011, now that's kind of stupid, but, a really just good movie. If you haven't watched it, give it a watch. It's kind of uplifting. It's kind of a very, I'm not gonna say heartfelt, but very endearing. And I kind of felt, good watching it. It didn't feel too sappy. Didn't feel too this way or that way. It was just a good, solid film with good characters and whatnot. But I really much enjoyed it. And if you've seen it already, go on, maybe rent it on Blu-ray, watch it again, watch it in high def, or if you don't know somebody that's seen it, it's definitely a movie. Oh yeah, Robin Williams is in it, which of course for some reason I totally forgot about. But he's great. I love Robin Williams films. I really much enjoyed Bicentennial Man, which maybe I'll watch again if I can find a nice high def version of it. But good movie, watch it. But really, that's kind of about it. I've been working and whatnot, and that beep in the background means my food is ready. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.